Yeah, that naming is one of the hardest things to begin with. Proper naming of variables, proper naming of files, proper naming of namespaces, everything. Um, and one of the things that it's funny, one of the things that I started discovering within Platform Hub was the need to have really clear and unambiguous names. So having a naming convention. So to give you an example, we were pushing out policies right now, and I just pushed up the policies best practice, and I said, establish a naming convention before you get started. Establish a naming convention where the prefix indicates what it's quote unquote hooked into. So a deployment run or a runbook run, or it's for both. And say deployment and runbook run. That's the prefix hyphen and then the template name. The template name can be whatever makes the most sense, but always have that prefix so you know exactly. So you also, with naming, you want to reduce the psychological burden as to what it's doing. You want to have it be very clear. Nothing's more frustrating than opening up a file that's 2,000 lines long or 3,000 lines long, and it's just one function. And at the very top, it just says var x, var I, var z, and you're like, oh my god, what does any of this mean? And so yeah, that's the hardest thing. So yeah, you want to remove that kind of that psychological weight or that burden of having forcing someone to have to go through literally everything to understand exactly what you're doing. So even the smallest little naming convention on your process, sorry, on your process templates or your policies or your variables within your variable sets or within your projects, it just helps out so much. Yeah. I think the hardest thing, honestly, is when you don't have a naming convention for so long, and then you decide to retroactively add it, and then it's just okay. Now you've put on the burden of how do we fix this problem? Because I mean, your two choices then are okay. We're going to stop everything, and we're going to go through this whole effort to rename literally everything, or force people as part of it. Hey, if I'm in this particular area, for example, I'm in Octopus deploy. I'm going to go through and I'm going to update the variable names. But then you add scope onto that work. And so that's, I think, the hardest decision is to retroactively do it. So again, that's why establishing it as soon as possible is the most important thing when it comes to naming. Not the most important thing in general, but when it comes to naming, the earlier the better.